Boy, oh boy. I did not envision doing this recap show today in losing fashion. 27-20 the Buffalo Bills come to Jacksonville. And I noticed a lot of things in this playoff matchup when I watched it. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was that the team that was more experienced, the team that was more battle tested in this type of environment came out on top. And of course, arguably the best quarterback in football, the best player on the field, showed up and showed out. Welcome back to another episode of the Chill Taste Podcast. I'm your host, Darian. And man, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm devastated. I'm hurt. But at the same time, I'm also like, I don't know. I'm just lost for words, man. I'm trying to gather what I witnessed today. Tough loss. Tough loss. I did not expect us to lose in the round one a wild card weekend. I thought we were going to come out on top. I thought we were a better team. I thought we were a more talented team. And I thought us being at home in our home environment, coming off a 8-game winning streak, hot offense, I thought that, you know, everything was going to come into play and we are going to come out victorious. 31-27 was my score. Ended up being 27-24 on the losing end. I want to start off by, highlighting a fantastic season, right? Before I get into, you know, the meat and potatoes of the show, I want to talk about how fantastic this season was, from a fan perspective, given the expectations coming into this year. If you watch my previous podcasts from earlier this season or during the preseason, I didn't expect much from this Jaguars team. I'm sounding a bit somber right now, but I am proud of this team. I'm proud of the head coach, first year head coach. I'm proud of the moves we made. I'm proud of the progress and the development we saw throughout this season, right? Being able to go on an 8-game winning streak, being able to score 30 plus points in 5 or 6 games this year, scoring over 25 points in like 10 games this year. We just saw so many big time growths on both sides of the football coming off a year where we went 4-13, right? I thought the personnel development from Antonio Johnson, Devin Lloyd, Trevor Lawrence bouncing back this year, Parker Washington, guys like Cole Van Lanning, Brenton Strange. I mean, there were so many great spots from this team this year. And unfortunately, it came to an end, right? And I was talking to my boys in the group chat today. And, coming into this game, I was thinking like, I was confident, but at the same time, like I knew we had a lot of holes still, right? I thought given the talent and the momentum we were playing with, I thought that we were able to continue to, play above those efficiencies, play above those holes on said roster. Because with all that being said, with all the fan talk and what you may see going throughout these playoffs, and you may come back and say, "Oh, the Jaguars, man. I'm looking at all these teams in the AFC. The Jaguars will beat these teams," and you can continue to feel that way. But there was obvious holes on this Jaguars team, throughout this entire year that weren't able to be addressed due to free agency moves, draft, in-season trade, so on and so forth, that we were be able to hide, And I knew, even though I felt confident in this Bills matchup, it was a tough round one matchup, right? Very tough, right? You're going against a team that's been in the playoffs now 8 straight years. They've been to 4 conference championships. They know what it takes to at least get there, right? This current iteration of the Jaguars team does not. And if it would have been the Chargers, if it would have been the Steelers, or maybe even the Texans for a third time this year, they may have won. But they ran into an unfortunate buzz. So that's just how the NFL crumbles at times, right? That's how the cookie crumbles. And hopefully this is a learning experience going forward. But I will say this, though. I'm not too emotional about the loss from a player get rid of standpoint. Obviously, there are some players you need to move off from, and I'll talk about that at the end of this pod. But, I'm not too emotional. I'm not going to be the fan out there that says, fire this person, get rid of the quarterback, get rid of this and that. No, 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 no. Like, all things considered, we were playing with house money. And, hopefully we use this as a learning lesson to say, okay, how can we avoid being teams from post 2017, post 2022, and getting better? Not just laying on our hands or sitting on our hands and just taking for what happened this year for granted and refusing to get better. Luckily, we got a general manager that's come from a winning organization that understands that, okay, I know what Les Snead did here when the Rams were unable to advance, right? Or when they missed the playoffs. Same thing with Liam Cohen, Buccaneers, so on and so forth. Like he's learned from these ecosystems to say, okay, this is how we get better. Same thing with, someone like Anthony Campanelli, right? As a DC coming from Green Bay, understanding what it takes to get better. And hopefully we do that. But I want to talk about this game first. I want to highlight the Buffalo Bills, man. Congrats to them. Hats off to them. They played a magnificent game. They played complimentary football in all three phases, special teams. I thought their kicker, Matt Prater, coming into this game, being banged up with injury from a hamstring standpoint, he made all his kicks. I thought their kick returning team, their place kicker, it may have been Matt Prater as well, or the punter or whatever like that. He had us kind of jumbled up on special teams as well. We weren't able to, have any big yards on that side of the football. Thought defensively they played a sound game, although they got shredded from the run department standpoint. Like we all knew coming into this game, they made enough plays on their pass defense to come out victorious. Offensively, this is a game where, I harp on Joe Brady being an underwhelming play caller at points, and I still believe that, but you can be average as a play caller. Granted, your personnel isn't the best either when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen. This may have been, arguably speaking, the best game I've seen from Josh Allen in his career. It may not be saying much because, right, it's just, I might sound like in the moment or something like that, but I have it written down right here: 28 for 35, 80% completion percentage, 273 from the air, one touchdown, one sack taken, a QB rating of 108.7 on 11 carries for 33 yards, two touchdowns, three total touchdowns, and he played damn near perfect football. There was never a moment in this game where I thought that Josh Allen was going to throw the ball in harm's way, that he was going to fumble the ball. Like he had total control of this game. And I mean, I wouldn't say total control of this game. He just had full confidence on his side. Like, I've been here before. Okay, this isn't going our way. The defense is giving us up. Let's go down here and score 2 points. Like we know, two scores. We know what it takes to get to where we need to be. Guys like Brandon Cooks, who has playoff experience, showed up. Dalton Kincaid showed up. Their offensive line, led by Deion Dawkins, showed up. Tre'Davious White, right? I mean, the guy that's been throughout this entire season, got, ACL injuries in the past, left Buffalo, kind of had that free agency journey, went to Baltimore last year, came back to Buffalo, maybe retiring after this year, who knows? But he played his tail off today. He has that experience. I thought Sean McDermott called a hell of a game as well. Being able to muck up with the Jaguars like they do on offense and just keeping his team in striking distance to where, okay, if we're down by 3, down by 4, I trust my offense and Josh Allen to get the job done. Khalil Shakir, right? I mean, coming into this game, I had no respect for their weapons offensively from the receiving department, and it turned out to be true. I mean, Brandon Cooks hit us with a few plays, but Khalil Shakir was 12 for 82 yards today. I think at one point he was 9 for 9 on his receptions. He may finish 12 for 12 on his receptions. Who knows? But James Cook, who we all circled as an X factor in this game, like he got bottled up, right? There's no way you could have told me the Jaguars would have won a game where James Cook was held under 100 yards from scrimmage. We outrushed them offensively. We averaged more yards per play, less penalties, and we lose the turnover battle by 1. I would have thought we won, with all due respect. But, arguably the best quarterback in football showed up, and it was very tough to watch, man. I will say, man, being at the mercy of an opposing quarterback is not fun. I think without question that has been the best quarterback we faced this year, better than Mahomes, with all the respect of Mahomes earlier this year. But I didn't have that much fear of Mahomes, because he made costly mistakes in that game, but Josh Allen played perfect. Thought a couple calls didn't go our way. I didn't really appreciate that tush push being airlifted for an extra 3 yards after the play should have been blown dead. I thought that should have been a penalty, you know what I'm saying? But I can't place it on the refs, right? I thought the refs weren't bad. Really, realistically, I thought a couple ball spots were a bit off at times, even for us, you know what I'm saying, offensively, when we were able to, have those home cooking first downs. But that's the only blemish I would throw on the refs. that tush push, thing, whatever. But hats off to this Bills team. They beat us fair and square. They made big plays when they needed to, and they attacked our secondary when they needed to as well. And I'll touch base on that here soon defensively. I think as for the Jaguars team, offensively got off to a rough start. I thought this was a game. I thought this was a game where we were going to allow the run to open up the pass. I felt as if, we had that first 3 and out like we've been having throughout these last few weeks or so. But there was moments in this game where Liam Cohn was able to lean on their defensive line, right? Bashal Tootin had like 4 carries for 55 yards. I'm not sure what happened with him. I think he got hurt by chance. But even ETN had a magnificent day on the ground. And also in the receiving department, I think he had over 100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. This is a game where we were able to impose our will with the run. But I think being a first-year head coach, not getting things the way you want to, and also having a quarterback with a lot more personnel changes on his front. I thought he checked out a lot of run plays more than likely, and that could have cost us here and there. But I thought the play calling at points was like very questionable, right? I without question think we could have leaned on the run way more. We outrushed them by at least 60, 70 yards in this game, and they couldn't stop us. I thought, refusing to take points on that 4th and 2 early in the game when we forced a fumble on the kickoff return. Moments like that, I can't fault the coach for. I more so blame the players, right? Being unable to convert that 4th and 2 is a reflection of what's been hindering us throughout this entire season, right? The Bengals game, the Colts game. I want to say even there was another matchup we had earlier this year where we were unable to convert a crucial 4th down. It may have been the Raiders or Cardinals, but or Texans, I don't know. But nevertheless, though, there were at least 3 moments this year, now 4, where I can say that the coach put his team in position to make a play and seize control, or even just take a stranglehold on momentum in their own or in the opponent's own territory. And this team couldn't do it. Hopefully, we learn from this and are able to do this next year, or take the points and be more methodical with our decision making. Because I understand not getting points, it loses all momentum, right? Because if you go up 10-3, okay, well the defense can kind of like, okay, like we hike, we getting stops, special teams getting stops. Maybe Josh Allen forces the ball. You don't know how football works, right? Especially when you're playing what ifs. But I also like to see my offense get 2 yards, and Leon was pretty adamant about that, right? He was saying that I'm going for it again and again and again, and I'm okay with that. I really am, because if we get that and we continue that, if we continue that drive and we go up 14-3, the bank is rocking. We're up 11 points. Who knows what happens after that, right? And the offense was already finding their footing in that second half rapidly, so I don't know. You can say you don't like those calls on offense from a coaching standpoint, but I more so blame the person. I mean, the players, like you just got to be greater than. And unfortunately, we weren't. You know what I'm saying? Trevor slipped up, Shane got on the ground, didn't get the first down. It's tough, but the game is all about inches, right? It's a game of inches, and unfortunately, we didn't show what we needed to. But I think second half of football was definitely a lot greater. I thought the quarterback and play calling woke up. Trevor Lawrence was really, really, I don't want to say fantastic, because of course he ended the game with a pick, but I thought he played pretty damn good in the second half, man. I mean, being able to only have the ball 3 times offensively, aside from that last drive, right? 3 drives where the Bills were playing ball control out of this world, right? Methodical drives, nickel and diming, making sure themselves are placed in positions where they have 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, so on and so forth. Extending drives. I think they finished like 7 for 12 on like 3rd down conversion, something crazy like that, right? In a game where the Jaguars barely had time of possession in comparisons to the Bills, I thought the offense and the quarterback and Trevor Lawrence did a hell of a job responding, and also going up 3 points with less than 4 minutes left to go in the game. The defense played well quarters 1, 2, and some of 3, but mainly in that fourth quarter, when we needed them most, they failed us. I hate to say it, but they did, right? I'm not going to put it on any particular player, but that unit entirely failed us. They did. Because if there was the other way around, whereas if the offense had a strong start, but it became stagnant in the fourth quarter, and the defense kept getting stops, but we kept putting the defense in bad field position with turnovers, so on and so forth, and the Bills into winning, I would have blamed this loss on the offense. The defense has to be held for this game, man. Blown coverage opportunities from the safety to the cornerbacks, miscommunications. This was a game we missed Jordan Lewis dearly. The lack of communication in the secondary was really evident, right? I'm seeing guys on 3rd and 5 with the clock winding down for Buffalo. Secondary guys like Jarion Jones, Eric Murray, guys like that. Greg Newsome, just like a lot of like talking before the play begins. It's like, okay, why are we not getting set? What's going on, right? I know it's loud in the stadium, but still, it's going on, right? Hand checking, so on and so forth. But I thought before I touch base on the defense entirely, I thought the offense played relatively well, right? I mean, in that second half, more so the fourth quarter. I thought the quarterback Trevor Lawrence delivered some big time throws. 3 touchdowns, right? I mean, you do stuff like that, bro. In the playoffs, I expect to win. I'm sorry, like the games aren't going to be perfect, especially in the postseason. But anytime you go up 3 points at home, less than 4 minutes. I mean, I get it if you're going up against like the fastest show on turf in Kansas City, or prime Tom Brady and the Patriots. And granted, Josh Allen's a hell of a quarterback, right? Like I said, he's arguably the best in football right now. He's playing amazing ball, but getting executed on defense by Josh Allen and a bunch of misfits, that's gonna linger with me throughout the entire offseason, man. I ain't gonna hold you. It definitely will. Because the offense responded. 3 drives, and they scored on all 3 drives in that second half. They did the job. They did their job. It wasn't pretty at first, and granted, the defense played well at the beginning of the game, but 4 quarters of football, complimentary football, in all 3 phases for 4 quarters was not played, unfortunately, and that's why the Jaguars lost by 3. Coaching, offense at first, second half, special teams, defense. So, yeah, man, that's heartbreaking. Defensively, though, like I said, Josh Allen played amazing, but 80% completion percentage on 35 attempts, 1 sack. I'm not sure how many times he was pressured. He got pressured a bit here and there, but 80% completion percentage, there's something to that, man. I mean, rather if it's a scheme, personnel, or what. I like Anthony Campanelli, but I thought at times on 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, it was too much soft coverage. And granted, everyone's saying the Jaguars can't run man like they want to, but at the end of the day, these corners get paid to play football, play defense. You should be able to play man across the board against Josh Allen and misfits. I'm sorry. But Greg Newsome got beat. Jarion Jones got beat today, right? Those guys gave up, I want to say, at least 80 yards apiece between those 2 corners themselves. Monteric Brown played okay, but, there were times where we just got methodically abused by playing too much zone and soft coverages and just not communicating. Because when you're a zone-heavy team, you have to be able to communicate, pass guys off, so on and so forth. And they did that at times when they had pressures and sack, but it wasn't enough. I thought defensively they played well in the running attack, of course, because they had the number 1 rush defense of football, and that was no fluke. But I find it very strange how a team can have the number 1 rush defense in football and yet are pretty average at best at getting after the passer. That's very odd to me. Credit to the linebackers for being able to stuff those running plays. And Devon Hamilton, he played well today. I mean, I won't lie to you. He definitely played well from a run stopping standpoint. But when it comes down to just, pressuring the pocket and, collapsing guys and whatnot, I mean, Josh Hines Allen was just, I mean, I'm not sure the pressures he's had. I'm quite sure he probably had like 6, 7, maybe led the team. But 1 sack is not enough. Trayvon Walker, great in run stopping, man. But getting after the quarterback, bro. It has to be an emphasis on getting after the quarterback this offseason. I don't need to be Saxonville, but we have to be able to get after the quarterback, bro. Eric Armstead and Josh Hines Allen are our leading sack guys right now with 9 and 8. Like that's just not enough. Like after that, it's like last year. Like you had Josh and Trayvon with 10 apiece, and after that, the next closest guy was 3. Same thing this year. You had Eric with 8, Josh with 9. The next guy was like with 3. Trayvon Walker missed a lot of time this year, but still, like that cannot continue to be a recipe for success. You can never have too many pass rushers. And granted, we did have more rotational guys this year, but we need guys that can come in and impact day one, right? Dwan Smoot, unfortunately, it's time, my boy. You're getting older in this league. I don't need you as an every down pass rusher, even like a designated pass rusher, a designated pass rusher, right? Danny Strigo, BJ Green, hopefully guys can develop, be even better next year. But the Jaguars got to find a way to address pass rushing needs and free agency or in the draft or via trade. Something has to shake, man. It really does, because if you look at the best teams in football right now that are currently still playing in this tournament, they all thrive at getting after the passer. At least half of them, at least, right? The Seahawks, Broncos, the Patriots did a really good job of stressing Justin Herbert tonight. The Niners, they're not really good at getting at the passer right now, so they're an odd team. But the Rams do a really good job of getting after the passer, and so do the Bears, right? They do a really good job of generating pressure and whatnot. They don't have any crazy guys over there outside of Montez Sweat, but still, like they emphasize on creating chaos up front. So I don't know, man. It's just tough pill to swallow. But defensively, that has to change this offseason. And heading into the offseason, I think 3 things must be addressed. I'll start from coaching. I think Liam Cohen has to take this year as a learning lesson for sure. How to call games in crunch time moments. I thought he did relatively well throughout this year, but there were some lingering moments where I thought, like, damn, if we don't clean this up, it can definitely show its face in the playoffs, and it did. Getting more comfortable, though, that's the biggest thing, though. Like I said, playing with house money this year, I didn't have any expectations. I understand this offense is hard to learn. Sean McVay's system, it takes time, right? I expect better in year 2 without question offensively. I expect our receivers to understand route concepts a lot better next year. Parker Washington, BTJ has to perform better in year 3 without question. Whoever our wide receiver 4 is going to be next year to finish out our, rather if it's Travis, which I don't think it should be, or if we draft a guy or pick up somebody in free agency, so on and so forth, right? Offensive line, I'm going down the offense, but coaching, right? I'm sorry, coaching. To circle back to coaching, Liam has to do a better job of, managing games in crunch time moments, right? Being able to milk a little bit of clock. Maybe we scored too fast in the fourth quarter, right? Maybe we didn't, utilize timeouts precisely in key moments and, taking points when we should, so on and so forth, right? I think Liam has to improve with that. I think he will improve with that because at the end of the day, first year head coach, first time in the playoffs as a head coach, right? So it takes time. He'll learn. He'll get better. I know he will. I trust he will because of what he's shown us this year. And if you look at all the teams that have won so far in the playoffs, they all have coaches that have had either past experience with playoff runs as a head coach or coordinators, right? Ben Johnson has made postseason runs with the Detroit Lions, right? Mike Vrabel, he has won multiple playoff games with the Tennessee Titans in the past. Sean McVay. Who else? Even Kyle Shanahan, of course, right? So, it's not surprising to see the Jaguars and Liam Cohen kind of struggle today because Liam Cohen's only been in the playoffs one time as a coordinator, and he lost round 1. So, granted, he was a coordinator for the Rams, but they didn't make the playoffs that year. And then I think in previous years when he was a coordinator, he wasn't a coordinator. He was a wide receivers coach and quarterback assistant coach. So, he's not really doing much hands-on things, kind of just learning from, preparation standpoint, right? Maybe not as involved as you are as an actual coordinator, right? In regards to a position coach. So learning lessons. We will refine and retool that from a coaching standpoint. And I think Anthony Campanelli has to be better as well. And I think he will be better, collectively speaking, when he has better personnel in place. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge thing this offseason. I think offensively, I mean, taking care of the football is one thing today. I can't really blame that on us. I think we did a solid job. Of course, he had one bad interception that didn't turn into points, and if it did, I think only mustered up to be 3 points given up, I think. And then the second pick, I mean, people want to say that Trevor should have hit Parker Washington for a deep crosser, or maybe it was there. I'm not sure. I have to see the all 22. I know pressure was in his face. You had Walker Little getting destroyed today. He was terrible today, by the way. Cole Van Lannon going out. I mean, maybe chasing 30 plus points last week and trying to go for a record came back to haunt us because we needed Cole Van Lannon big time today. And I think if we had Cole Van Lannon on that offensive line, we probably hit our throws and maybe win. I don't know, man. I don't want to say the what ifs, but still, like, not having Cole out there was big because Walker Little was getting beaten. He was the only penalized lineman on the team today. I think we only had like 3 penalties. They all came from Walker Little. So, that just goes to show how clean of a team we've been when he wasn't starting at left tackle, and you see what happens today. But, got to get back healthy for sure. Got to figure out the Travis Hunter thing going forward, and I think we will in the offseason. But also just wanting to see how year 2 in the system Trevor Lawrence is entering year 6. Great season in year 5, but now, okay, it's time to start stacking these games. Start stacking these seasons. All right. So now, because the precedent's been set, right? The formula's been laid out. The guidelines have been shown, right? We now have a model of excellence we should be following. As of right now, I don't expect the Jaguars to lose more than 9 games going forward with this current core of Trevor, Liam, James Gladstone, the weapons we have on offense, so on and so forth. I don't expect to lose more than 9 games going forward for the next 3 to 4 years. That's me personally, even though we're not going to be playing in Jacksonville for the next 3 years or so. But still, like, we're playing in Orlando next year. We're playing in London, for X amount of games. I expect to be back in the playoffs next year, I would think right now, right? I mean, before any type of offseason moves are made, I don't expect to see regression. However, I am wondering how that is going to be attacked in the offseason, because this offseason is going to be huge for us. Every offseason is huge, but especially when you come off of a season like this, you have to be able to stack them, because it's easy to go from 4 wins to 13 wins. How can you go from 13 to retaining 13, 14, 15, or just getting back into 10 plus win territory? It's very hard, especially when you have a harder schedule the following year. But yeah, I mean, I just want to see the offense continue to take that leap. Defensively, we have to figure out the personnel. There's going to be some wholesale changes on the side of the football, in my honest opinion. I think there's going to be a lot of wholesale changes. I can see Foy being let go, Eric Armstead being let go, Greg Newsome not being returned or retained. I'm sorry. Andrew Wingard not being retained. I could possibly see a world where JHA is on the trade block potentially. Kind of has that motto of, like, the way he talked in the presser today. Kind of seems like he's still kind of like jabbing at fans a little bit, saying that, we're appreciative of what we went through this year, given everything that's going on with this team and all the outside noise, so on and so forth. And granted, of course, you hear the outside noise a lot from out the media, but they don't talk about it enough. So I think it's more so talking about the inner things going on, like the inner media. And granted, they've said their fair choice of words, but still, you weren't living up to expectations. So I can see JHA, being traded potentially for some draft capital. I don't know. We'll see. But definitely some moves be made. Players need to be paid as well. As I'm, moving on to the last piece of the offseason, what I want to see happen going forward. Offseason moves, general management, James Gladstone. This offseason is huge. I'm going to continue to emphasize that. This offseason is huge. And I'll speak more about that in future shows. But paying Myers, paying Cole Van Lanning, that's already been taken care of, right? What about ETN? What about Devin Lloyd, right? Second team All-Pro Devin Lloyd, shout out to him. Wish he would have made more plays today, but still without question, shout out to him. How they retain that? ETN, what do you do with that? Because he played lights out too, and I think he earned every single dollar this year. He should be getting paid north of $9 million, in my opinion. So, how can we pay those guys with the money kind of shrinking up right now? Because there's some people that need to be cut. So we'll see. We'll talk more about it later. But as of right now, hats off the three. 3, 2, 1. But as of right now, hats off to the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, Sean McDermott for coming into Jacksonville, and getting the job done. Got to tip my cap to you guys, man. Hell of a game. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt, but at the same time, I'm more so just a bit sad, man. I ain't gonna hold you, bro. Anytime I have a little bit of expectations, man, just like, damn, bro. First round playoff exit. Season just ended last week. Now we already in Cancun. Tough pill to swallow, man. And we still got April free agency draft. Oh my God, bro. It's tough, man. We gotta do this all again in September, later on in this year, man. Tough, man. But anyways, I think I'm tapping in. I know my injury isn't the best right now because I'm just trying to still really gather what happened today. Shout out to Crispies as well. I went to go watch this game at Crispies. Great wins, great environment. Nice place. I'll be showing my face back there next year for sure. But anyways, man, until next time, I thank y'all so much for tapping in this season, even though I didn't record the entire year. Caught me on the back half. But I thank y'all so much for rocking on me this year. I thank y'all so much for tapping in, subscribing, liking, commenting. The content will continue. More podcasts will be dropped. But now, on full coverage on all NFL teams. So my next podcast will be focusing on the entire NFL playoffs and how it remains and how things shake out, because there's some teams that lost today that hadn't been as losing. We'll talk more about that on next episode. But until next time, thank you for tapping in. That is a wrap.